All right, good afternoon, everybody. Glad you could join us today. We're excited to host our public webinar here. So we appreciate you joining us to learn more about Signworld. For those of you that have not yet participated in one of these types of sessions, just a quick overview of the agenda and how we run this. We're going to first have our Signworld owners introduce themselves, a little bit about their background, and share some key points about their business. And then we're going to go ahead and turn the tables over to you as panel or as participants to ask questions of our owners, anything that's top of mind for you that you'd like to ask. You may. We ask you to keep it as a single question each time, giving everybody a chance to ask questions. So far, we have a small group, so we should be able to maybe go around more than once. So you might have an opportunity to ask more than one question. But that's the format for today. So to go ahead and get us started, let's first kick it off to our owners to give themselves an introduction. Pete, can we kick it to you first to do your introduction, please?
Sure. I'm Pete Duncanson. My company is Metro Center Signworks. Are we going through the whole list introduction or? Yep.
Yes,
okay.
Please.
Okay. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, actually in the city. Been in business just over 2 years, opened the doors beginning of April 2020. Our facility, our shop / office is 3,100 square feet, a little on the large side, but we're filling it up in any case. So glad we went a little larger. I have one about 3/4 time employee right now. I lost my sign maker early in the year and looking for another full-time person. This year projected to sell around $350,000. My biggest customer is an industrial manufacturer. I had, I think, about 8 orders with them, totaling $35,000 over a little bit, about a year and a half, and just got another $5,000 order from them yesterday on top of that. My second largest customer is a church, done about $30,000 with them since they built a new church. My career, I worked 32 years in the steel industry in all kinds of positions. I'm an engineer by training, but I worked in engineering, sales, business management, general management, and did 3 years in the office products business, which is a horrible industry to be in. I was glad to be out of that. That's me.
Very good. Thank you, Pete.
I need to interrupt, Sheree, if you're there, can you send me the link for today's webinar that's going on right now? I have 2 of my clients who cannot log in. They're having problems. It says the host has another meeting in progress. They might be having the wrong link. Sheree, will you send it to me?
So Ken, I'll send it to you. It was updated last month. We'll go ahead and go to Dave for his introduction. I'll email it to you right now.
Okay.
I'm Dave Farrow, 303 Sign Company in Longmont, Colorado. We're about an hour north of Denver. 5 years in business as of Sunday. Got 2,450 square feet. So Pete, if you got a few extra feet, I'll take them. We are bulging at the seams right now, so enjoy those. I got 3 full-time employees, looking for a 4th, shooting for $900,000 this year in sales. Biggest customer, got a few, they're all kind of in the same area. One is a pharmaceutical contract manufacturer. They have a facility that's about 150, actually more than that. They got about 250,000 square feet of office and manufacturing space. We do all kinds of signs for them. And then I've got a food manufacturer who is now adding another wing to their plant. And so we do a lot of like floor striping and door numbers, more on the kind of functional rather than branding level stuff with them. Before getting into signs, I would spent 20 years doing software product management, mostly on the business side, customer requirements, running workshops with partners, all of that kind of thing. And after about 20 years, it was time to get out. So yeah, that's me.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. Larry Foster.
Hello. The name of my company is Signs and More, and we're located in Troy, Michigan, which is about 30 miles north of Detroit. I've been in business for 21 years. In a building that is 8,000 square feet. I have 13 employees. We'll do about $1.9 million this year. And right now, probably the biggest project I've got going on is for the city of Fraser, which is a local city here. We're doing about $130,000 in signs for that city. The welcome to, as you drive up into the city, all the parks in the city and all of the rest of their signs, all outdoor signs in this case. I came out of the retail business. I was in retail for about 27 years. And when I left 27 years ago, I was the vice president of operations of the company.
Wonderful. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate you being here today. Jack?
I joined Signworld back in 1995. Back then, we were a little different than today. We were a retail model, more of a banner shop, didn't have digital printing, didn't have the internet. We had the yellow pages. And so it was more of a local operation. Signworld morphed a lot over the years. I started in 1,100 square feet, one employee. I grew to 5,000 square feet, staff 11, doing about 1.3 million in sales. My largest customer was a regional developer for Subway with 250 locations that I did about $250,000 a year with. Second largest customer was Dave & Buster's, all the game graphics in the game room, taking care of them worldwide. I came out of the food distribution business. I was the general manager of a wholesale food distribution company. I ran my operation for 10 years, then selling it to go into a sort of a partnership with Ken, learning his end of the business, finished buying him out 8 years ago, come this July. So when I answer questions today, if it goes more to my experience running an operation, I'll speak from that perspective. If it goes more to training and policy, I'll speak from that perspective.
Very good. None of us would be here today without the founder of our company. Ken, would you like to give your introduction, please?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Ken Kent. I founded Signworld 34 years ago in Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm still here. Actually, I'm sitting 2 blocks away. I can look out the window at our very, very first location. Lots of people ask me over and over, why the sign business? And my answer today is the same it was back then. I wanted to have a business that had few employees and few customers and regular hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And I wanted to make a product and put my own name on it. So that's what Signworld is all about. That's what the sign business is all about. For example, if you want to get back to making your old corporate salary of, let's just say, $200,000 a year. Well, in our business, our benchmark is you only need 4 employees. But most of the businesses that you could be looking at right now, in order to make that kind of an annual income, you're not going to have 4 employees. You're going to have 10 or 20 employees or more. And fast forward that if someday you want to sell your business to fund your retirement, and let's say you want to sell it for a couple of $1 million, the Signworld benchmark is you only need about 14 employees for, let's say $2 million. A $2 million business, the benchmark is 14 employees. But if you have a service business, you're going to have over 100 employees. And you have to ask yourself, in the second stage of your life, in this second career that you're about to enter, is that you? Is that your DNA? Do you want to build a business where you're going to have to hire 400 employees to end up with 10 years, 15, 20 years from now with 100? Do you want to go through all of that human resource nightmare? Whereas in our business, in a manufacturing business, you're focused much more on the customer and you're focused much more on the product. So that's the employee side of the business. You know, the bottleneck today is you can't find people. Well, if you only need to start with one employee and gradually build up to 2, 3, 4, or 5, it's not so hard or of a challenge as other businesses. The other side is the customer. I think Larry Foster will tell you, Larry, 80% of your gross annual sales comes from how many people? You're on mute, Larry. Come off of mute.
Less than 15.
Less than 15. And Jack, when you had your business, 80% of your money came from how many?
15 to 20.
Okay. So you're not going to be out there dealing with hundreds and thousands of customers. Those top customers will become your friends. You'll see them every month for the reorder, go to lunch, play golf, go to the ball game, get together at the holidays. So those are the two nice things about our business. Very few employees, very few customers, pretty much regular hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Jean, go ahead.
Very good. Thank you so much, Ken. So now it's time for our participants to be able to ask the questions from our owners today. I do have one guest that is logged in with a phone number. So if I can ask you to come off mute and share your name. I have 714 area code 814-4409. If that is you, if you can come off mute and share what your name is, that'd be great. Just so we know who you are. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. You can go ahead and put something in the chat box too, if that's easier for you. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm trying to promote Logan to come off of mute and go ahead and introduce yourself, Logan, where you're from, and go ahead with your first question for the group today.
Hey, good morning, Logan Ridley. I am originally from Florida, but currently live out in Hawaii. I'm a
Logan, I think your audio is having troubles. We're not able to hear you. Anyone else having trouble hearing his audio?
Yes.
Okay. Logan, if you want to go ahead and put your question in the chat box, I'll keep an eye open for it unless your audio improves, and then we can.
What my next opportunity would be, but the number one question that I have is kind of, it is about the loan to your employees and what kind of incentive.
Oh, I think we lost Logan.
We got half it again.
All right, well, let's move on to our next participant to ask a question. Rick Bearden, I see you are off mute. If you can go ahead, share where you're from and give our owners your first question today.
Yes, it's nice to see everybody. I appreciate the introductions. My name is Rick Bearden. I had a basic question. It was nice to hear the owners talk. I'm hanging on to every word that you guys are saying. As you can imagine, you probably went through this, two to so many years ago. And I'm very interested in what you're saying. Congratulations on your success. The big question that I have, and this surrounds more around the employees. I know in Nashville, I believe you said you had 1 employee or 2 employees. Are you finding it difficult to lure the employees in and keeping them? Is retention an issue in this business?
Great question, and kind of seems like it's parlaying to what I think Logan was trying to ask as far as sending employees.
I didn't want to steal his thunder, but I was hoping. I'm glad you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, and it's a really good question. So Pete, finding, keeping, retaining employees, how hard is it? What are you doing different to keep them happy today?
Well, I don't think retaining employees is that difficult as long as you have a good culture. At the Signworld convention a couple of months ago, there was a lot of discussion about culture, and if you've gotten into this business, you know that's important. Finding is difficult. Everybody knows it's a tight labor market all over the country. So finding good people, experienced people is a challenge. Can't disagree with that.
Okay, very good. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, we've had challenges finding people and then keeping people. It's just a different world out there than when most of us grew up. I've had 2 employees in the last year kind of send me a text message and say, "Hey, my time with your company is done. I left my timesheet on your desk." Just didn't really feel like coming to work again the next day. So I've had 2 employees. I got one that is with me for almost 5 years now. 4 and change. It'll be around Thanksgiving, and my designer's been with us almost 2 years. So we do have some luck in holding on to good employees, and we give them raises and bonuses and days off, and try to make sure that we're taking good care of them. But it seems to be harder. Just talking with other guys I know that own businesses, it's harder to find people that are committed.
Gotcha. I appreciate it.
Larry, how about you?
Well, I came out of retail. Retail had about 100% turnover in a year. So if you had 80 employees, you probably turned pretty close to 80 employees. This business is on the opposite extreme of that. This is very low turnover. If I lose 1 employee, and I have 13 now, if I lose 1 employee a year, that would probably be about the average. More difficult today than it was 5 years ago to find somebody, yes, but I've seen in the last maybe 6 months getting a little bit easier. And we rely on employees that we have. If they know somebody, we use our vendors. So there's a lot of different sources that we also have the ability to lean on a little bit.
Good, thank you. Jack, your thoughts?
It's a tough job, labor market, but that's true in any business you go into. So the good news is you're starting with 1, you're adding a few more. And because there are other sign companies out around you that have employees, there is a labor force in our industry. They're going to come to work for you for one of several reasons. The number 2, 3, or 4 person where they currently work, there's a ceiling where they can't advance. They're working on old equipment. They'd rather work on latest and greatest, and you have that. More important, they're looking for, as Pete talked about, culture. They're looking for the happy home. The boss will give them praise. The boss won't yell them in front of others. The boss will give them a raise without begging for it. And the boss will let them off for that daughter's recital if it's important. It's hiring and keeping the people happy. So if you hire carefully and nurture, Larry, you still have your original employee for 20 years ago, am I correct?
I do, yes.
So in any business you go into, you're going to have that issue, but we believe it's hard for us right now. It's even harder for the other industries out there.
Very good. Ken, your thought, anything to add?
In the beginning, you're going to place lots of internet ads, help wanted ads, but take one more step. Become the executive recruiter, become the headhunter, reach out and touch someone. So figure out a way to go to the other Signworld owners and talk to their employees and ask them who they know out there that works for the competition, et cetera, or go to your local suppliers and get some names, get some contacts, things like that, rather than waiting for someone to come and apply. You got to remember 80-90% of the population is happily employed. They don't look at help wanted ads every day. So figure out a way to reach out and touch someone, but do not approach other Signworld owners employees. That's something that we never do. But to talk to the owner to see if he would ask their employees if they know of other people, et cetera.
Okay.
Good points. Good points. Thank you.
All right, I do see Logan is back. I saw your chat. That's in here, or no, that's actually, I'm sorry, from someone else. Logan, if you want to go ahead and take yourself off mute, and I don't know if your question wants to be revised, considering this last question might have been similar, but go ahead with your question today.
No, thank you. You caught me in a mountain. Yeah, I'll revise it a little bit. So then let's talk about at the beginning, and when it's me plus 1 employee. When I think of culture, I think of teams, and I'm having a hard time connecting, me trying to build business and this 1 employee building signs. So how quickly can I get the 2 to 3 employees where we can actually create a team and a culture and an identity on our own? Thank you.
Great question. Well, let's start with Dave. Dave, when did you add employee number 2, and how did you start creating a culture and a team as you added more and more employees?
I think it was like a year and a half. in when I got my second employee. As far as culture and team, so we have production meetings 3 days a week. And part of that production meeting is, what does anybody need? What do you need to do to get your job done better? What's more efficient? Do you need a tool? Do you need a better process? What do you need? And I try to encourage my team to speak up and, you know, help shape it in a way that's going to make them efficient and happy with what they're doing. You know, I also have a quarterly kind of informal review with everybody, talk to everybody one-on-one once a quarter just to say, hey, how are things going? Take the pulse, that kind of thing. We usually either go to lunch or have lunch brought in, depending on what the situation is at the time. That's kind of what we do.
Very good. Pete, still a smaller shop, brand new owner. How are you creating a team and a culture environment in your
Well,
operation?
you need to decide what your culture is before you even have an employee. That's not something you wait until you have 2 or 3 or 4. Establish your culture right away, and if it's a good one, then that attracts employees. And as far as you know, building the team, we do the same kind of thing Dave does. In fact, with my first employee, we met pretty much every day, first thing in the morning, to just talk through what's going on and you know, what's our workload today, what are the priorities. We've kind of backed that off now to 3 times a week. Just go through the work list, make the order list. But that kind of thing just keeps everybody on the same page of where the priorities are and who's doing what.
Very good. Thank you. Larry is our veteran owner of a larger operation. Think back to the early days as you were growing your team. You know, when did you add your second employee, your third, and how did you create a team and a culture as you grew?
Well, I added somebody actually as soon as we opened. I had myself, my general manager, and we added somebody when we opened. So we started with 3. Then after 6 months, we added another, and then about 9 months, we added another. And I think back, and I think the culture begins the day you open, and it isn't anything that we did. It isn't anything different than I do on my daily basis between my organization and my family. I treat everybody the same. We're very open. We're honest with one another. I value their input. I hired for experience, so they actually had more experience than I did, and so I valued their opinion, and it just grew from there. And you set the pace as the owner, and it is critical to maintain your organization and to build it. So it's very important. Thank
you, Larry. Jack, your thoughts?
You know, I started with 1. I added my second employee in month 3, actually end of month 2. It's month 3. Next one was at month 5, month 7, month 9. By the end of the first year, I had about 5. In new owner training, our very first topic in new owner training is exit strategy planning. We start with the end game in mind. Our second topic is talking about how to build a culture, because before you can interact with customers and staff, you got to know who you are and how you want to have this business operate. So the beauty of Signworld is we allow you to build your own culture and coach you and encourage you how to do that.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. So I do see a question in the chat box from Omar. I don't know, Omar, if you want to take yourself off mute and ask it yourself, or you just like to have me read it from the chat box, but it is on the same topic. I see you're off mute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can definitely articulate this. So this is very, very interesting. I appreciate your time. This is amazing. It's great. Thanks. So basically, I've been trying to figure out the level of expertise. There are employees and employees, right? I can remember the names, but Jack mentioned that you hire for expertise. I think that I'm in the same belief system or of hiring somebody who's smarter or experienced in a particular area, so I don't have to worry about that. So what level of expertise is required for the 1 and 2 employees that I might have? That's 1. And then how steep of a learning curve is, what kind of training would I be required of this person might have, and what is the usual onboarding? That's a hard one, but maybe you have an idea how long it takes to onboard an employee, because all of that influence, right, the success of your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Larry, go ahead, Jack. Did you have a
Yeah,
statement?
let me give you what our plan is. In new owner training, we're going to talk a lot about HR and who that individual is and what they look like. We're going to give you the ads to place, tell you where to place the ads, and you do the preliminary interviews for culture. We then at Signworld will interview them for knowing the equipment, the software, the project management, the multitasking, the quality control. By that time, you have met other Signworld owners, you have them help you interview because they have more practice than you do. And we encourage you to have them go work in another Signworld location before you open to see, do they actually add up to what they said they did on the resume. People can talk about it, doesn't mean they can do it. Your first employee should be a journeyman sign maker. Growing up, they had an artistic talent. They went to graphic arts education, probably trade school more than college. Graduating from that, they went to work as an apprentice at an existing sign company, learning under a more senior sign maker. They now have matured where they have 5, 10, 15 years of experience and they want to move up and be the lead someplace else. So they're out there. And then from there, you go one of two directions. You either hire more qualified journeyman sign makers, as Larry has done in cases I did, or you go the other route and you have the one journeyman that teaches the other ones under him, and you hire people for culture and for their willingness to learn new trades. So you need to have at least one journeyman, but beyond that, you can hire and teach what needs to be done.
Fantastic. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So as far as expertise and the learning curve and onboarding, let's go to Dave first. Hard to find experienced. How steep is the learning curve and what's the onboarding like? Anything to add from what Jack shared?
Yeah, my employee that I've had for 4+ years now, he came to the business with about 20 years of different experience. He worked for Budweiser and wrapped a lot of their trucks, so he got 3M certified for that. He'd worked at a neon place, though. He was able to install electrical signs, building other types of signs real easy for him. So that was a huge help. Since then, we've had less applications from people with sign experience, more than a year or two. So we've definitely brought in less experienced people and tried to train them up. My designer actually is great at sign design, but she actually came from being a designer for a patent company or a patent law office that would apply for patents. So she would need to do all the technical design. So there's a lot of similarities in that in terms of the technical dimensionality and perspective views and things like that. So that really worked out. Yeah, it's I think I'm definitely following the train people up model more than finding experienced people.
Very good. Thank you, Dave.
Awesome.
Pete, your first employee, how much experience did they have and how was the onboarding experience?
He had about 14 years of experience, and he was really solid. So he trained me more than I trained him. What I had to teach him was how we're going to run our business, not anything about making signs. But when he left, I was all I had was a part-time installer who didn't know anything about signs other than what he had learned here. So I hired, and in 25 years of management, I hired out of desperation. It was the worst hire I ever made. I thought I can now teach somebody. I can train somebody. It did not work out well. Let him go after 8 weeks. So you do have to have that experienced person. There is it's a steep learning curve for someone with no experience, and that's not something you have time for as an owner, to be the trainer. So I got more productive when I let him go than I was when he was here. So there's a lot to know, and there's a lot to learn. I would say I'm advertising now for 3 years minimum experience, and having a hard time finding that. But that's my target, is 3 years minimum. Would like to have somebody with 10.
Very
Is
good.
there a sign design university? I mean, like, that is spitting people out. That's a business opportunity there for you.
Something that we've talked about, that's for sure. Absolutely, Omar. Well, we got one more owner. Your thoughts, Larry, as far as that first employee, the experience, and just some comments here.
My first employee had about 15 years experience. And I think a little bit like Pete said, we hired for experience but what I did is I wanted their knowledge, but I had to teach him how I wanted my company to run. And that was probably the biggest challenge with that person. But as you get started, that's what you're looking for is experience, because you don't have quite the experience that you need. But as you grow, and as we gain that experience, now we're looking just simply for attitude. I can hire somebody and have them work with others and train them, but I can't make somebody happy if they're not a happy person. So I want that outgoing person, somebody that's going to talk to my customers. So that's what we're looking for now.
That's awesome. At the end of the day, that's but longevity of business, right? That good relationship. So it's like, yeah, it's great insight. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So Kevin, I see you're on. I'm going to promote you as a panelist. You're using an older version of Zoom. So to give you a chance to speak, I need to promote you as a panelist. So I'm going to do that. So take a look and you'll see a notification come through to accept it. But while you're doing that, let's move on to Stefan. If you can take yourself off of mute and go ahead and share your question for the group today. Okay, Stefan, I don't see you coming off of mute. So if you would like to go ahead and put your question in the chat box, if you're having trouble getting off mute, we'll take a look for that coming forward. Kevin, I see you're now able to go ahead. Yep, perfect. You're off mute. Go ahead and share a question for the group today.
Yes, thanks. This is Kevin Lightwig. I'm in the Atlanta suburbs. Personally, I think we learn a lot more from failure than success. So my question to all of the owners is, looking back at your Signworld career, what is your biggest mistake or failure you've made so far?
All right, very good. Let's go ahead and start with Larry. Thinking back over the 18 years, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made?
Well, I've made plenty of them. I think when I got started, I didn't know how big some of the jobs were that were out there. We have a tendency to go out, see a customer, and they want something small, and we leave it at that. And as you come to find out, they need so much more signage, and I didn't go after that. I kind of stuck with what they were looking for and just did that. So I don't feel like when I started, I captured all the business that was out there from each customer.
Okay, very good. Untapped opportunities. Pete, how about you? Short time in business. What's the biggest mistake so far?
Probably underestimating how much work goes into some of the larger projects and how much cost there is and some of the risk on cost. I had one big project. It was at the time my biggest one to date, and it was a disaster from beginning to end, mostly because I just wasn't paying attention to all the details that went into it. And a lot of things just went bad with it. And it's off of my plate, but there's still problems with that customer. But it's understanding or being cognizant of all of the things that have to go into a larger project and the things that can go wrong.
Yep, lots to learn. Perfect. All right. How about you, Dave?
I would say there were a couple times where, I don't know if it was out of desperation, but I definitely hired the wrong person that I wasn't completely sold on, but had a need, and ended up letting them go, 90 days later, some period of time later. Whereas if I just listened to the inner voice, I probably would have not hired them. Even though we kind of did the full 360 interview process and all that with everybody here, brought my wife in as a additional interviewer and all that kind of thing. But yeah, still made a couple of mistakes there that just kind of ended up costing us time, money, and momentum.
Okay. Jack, your thoughts?
You know, it's something that it's similar to what Larry was talking about, but in a different way. You know, we talk about that the internet drives so much of our new business that in many cases we're so busy chasing a stranger that we haven't met yet. We're not really realizing the value we have with the current customers. We have an opportunity in this business that no customer should be a dead end. Every customer you have has a contact to somebody bigger. And it's a shame if we're not leveraging it. The restaurant that needs one sign is a landlord that probably needs 10. Landlord probably has a tenant needs 100 signs. That tenant might have a supplier needs 1,000. So if you're not leveraging from one to the next, if you're not using the reputation already built with your current customers to get to the next one, you're missing a huge opportunity. And I did it sometimes, but I didn't do it as much as I should. We look at our successes instead of looking at our failures and how do we improve that ratio of getting from one to the next. So you need to turn it into part of your sales process to make sure that no customer becomes a dead end. Everybody can get you to somebody else. That's how you get to those bigger and bigger customers. Because you don't know the real big customers to begin with. You got to have somebody else get you to them.
Very good. Jack, would you like to go ahead and share your slides?
I will do that in just a minute. We're going to show you 3 different slideshows. The first one shows you what is a sign, not only what we can make with the initial equipment to what we need to outsource in the beginning. And then that goes on to show you some more unusual signs just to see how big the world of signs is. The second slideshow goes to our wall of fame, as we talk about going from smaller projects to bigger projects. The third slide, we show you some of the operations, both inside and out, so you can see what facilities look like. There's no audio to these, so these will go on in the background while we're having conversation and going through questions.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, I do see the question in the chat box from Stefan. So I'll go ahead and share his question for the group. At what point were you able to take a paycheck? So let's go to Dave first.
I think about 8 months in.
Okay. How about you, Pete? Have you taken a paycheck yet?
Well, I'm paying myself Walmart wages, mostly to stay in compliance with my 401k funding. But other than that, I'm not taking a true salary yet or taking money out of the business.
Okay, very good. How about you, Larry?
The 5th month I took my first check and I've never missed since.
Okay, Jack?
Before I answer, and Pete, it's accurate to say that you started the month that COVID shut the world down. And so you've had a little harder time trying to get things started because of networking and other things that really kind of got sidelined during that period. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. Brutally.
You know, I broke even my first month in business and took my first paycheck at 6 months.
Very good. Yeah, we should have gone back to the biggest challenge in opening a business, not to do it the month before COVID hits, but that would have some foresight involved. So, all right, very good. We do have 2 call-in participants that I don't know the names of. So I'd like to offer both of you the opportunity to go off of mute, and whoever speaks first can go ahead and ask their question. I see one from a 714 area code and one from a 703 area code. So if that's your cell phone number, go ahead and come off mute and ask a question for the group. All right, they might be having trouble figuring out how to go off mute on their mobile devices. So let's go ahead back to the top. Rick, do you have a second question for the group that you'd like to ask today?
There was a couple of questions that were asked by other participants that I think were dead on. And the last question where, you know, you asked when you were able to take a paycheck was a great question that I probably wouldn't have asked. So I appreciate whoever asked that. Good job. And the slideshow is really good. So I don't have any other questions to ask right now that I can think of.
All right, perfect. Let's go to Logan. Logan, if you want to take yourself off mute and ask a question for the group, if you have a second one.
Ma'am, thank you. So having talked with Ken earlier, we kind of talked about the whole inventory of signage that's available is available to me to sell on day one through the network and leveraging other Signworld owners' capabilities and kind of subcontracting. So could you maybe talk me through the process? You know, day one, I find that big fish and they want a large project, but I don't have the equipment initially to be able to take care of that project. How do I work with other Signworld in your network so that I can offer that product to that customer early on? Thank you.
Great question, Logan. So Pete, let's start off with you. Share your story about Lee and how you're helping him, and also share where you may have outsourced a project in your early days.
Yeah, so early on, we found a wholesale installer, in fact, 2 of them in our area. That was really key. You do leverage the other owners, not just for sourcing, but for advice. Who are you using for this? The Signworld has a great network of preferred wholesale fabricators for various different things. And just to, you mentioned Lee Hamblin. He's opening up about 10 miles from me later in the summer, and he got a kind of a surprise request for a quote for a couple of banners. And he doesn't have a shop. He doesn't have anything set up yet. So we're going to take care of that for him. I'm going to produce them and install them, and just helping him out, being part of the network. But finding sources for everything is really the key to being able to take those orders.
Very good. Thank you, Pete. Dave?
Yeah, we sold a dimensional letters sign before we opened, and letters, etc. One of the Signworld partners produced that for me, and we had it installed, I think, before we had our printer set up. I've got 5 or 6 Signworld owners in the general vicinity of me, and I think eventually they probably were getting close to wanting to block my phone number when it appeared. But yeah, they were super helpful on just where, like Pete says, where to get local things done, local installers, engineers for monument signs, you name it. I mean, there's just a lot of things you kind of pick up over time, and it's finally turned around where people are reaching out and asking me where I got stuff. So it's interesting on that level.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. Larry, let's talk about when you outsource a project, but also share how you support your national accounts today and how you take care of those customers.
Well, I do use other Signworlds, and we do have some national accounts where I need installations in different cities, different states, and I always get great help from other Signworlds in the area. And as far as helping, there probably isn't a day goes by that I don't get calls from Signworld owners, and I'm helping them with projects. I've got a couple guys here in town that literally every single day I'm working on their projects in my organization. And there's a lot of different ways you do it. Sometimes we do the entire job. They learn. I give them a 25% discount, and they sell the job, and that's how we work it. Others, they just come to us for advice, and they handle the job completely. And then in between that for different jobs, but we do it every single day.
Very good. Thank you. Jack, your thoughts?
The equipment initially won't produce everything. It'll produce a 2-dimensional graphics, which was the first part of this slideshow. Outsource in the 3-dimensional projects until you get deeper in business, when you can justify bringing in the equipment to make those others. And some people never bring in more equipment, and they just say, I'm just going to let others make it for me forever. I'll market and manage. And others say, I'd rather have my own CNC router, engraving equipment, flatbed printers. Having all the equipment to begin with would take a much bigger space, a much bigger investment, and a steeper learning curve. So we've simplified that a bit. You'll outsource some of the projects to other Signworld owners, but then we have a whole roster of manufacturers that can manufacture anything that you cannot make. So everything from a name badge to a billboard is deliverable from day one, and then outsourcing from going from there.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. I do have a question in the chat box from our participant, Stefan. Let me go ahead and get to that. So you talk about having other Signworld owners near you to help you. How do you avoid competing with other Signworld owners? So let's talk a little bit about the competition in your local markets and where you have other Signworld locations. Do you find yourself competing against them? Larry, let's start with you in Detroit.
Lots of competition out there. There's in our market, I think there's probably 8 sign worlds on top of the 200 to 250 other sign companies. You know, we really don't compete against one another. We work together. There are so many times, I'm sure we both get called to the same job to go out and take a look at it, and we don't even know, they don't know I'm doing it, I don't know they're doing it. But it's really a team. And I got a call about 2 weeks ago from a local Signworld owner who wants to move into my territory. And I said, it was fine. I don't have any problem with that, as long as he talks to Jack, and Jack can work it out on his end. But it's definitely a team. It's they're not competitors.
Okay, very good. Dave, your thoughts in Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, it happens. You know, generally we find out, you know, that it did happen over a beer, you know, and we just start talking about something, you know, and they talk to them too. You know, we actually send each other work a lot, just because things are maybe not a big enough job to travel very far, and so I can hand them to somebody that's closer. So we, you know, I probably have that email exchange once or twice a week with other Signworld companies.
Very good. How about you, Pete? How's Nashville?
To my knowledge, I've never competed against another Signworld owner. As far as I know, I've done work in Jim Brewer's neighborhood, and he's done work in my neighborhood, and you know, I know that, but it's not something that I ever had a shot at. So yeah, I don't see the competition with other owners. There are not a lot of sign worlds around the Metro Nashville area. And you know, a couple, or one that I've never made contact with, never gotten in touch with him. Don't think he's really doing that much. But yeah, don't see the competition. See much more competition with the other, especially the other franchises.
Okay, very good. Jack, your thoughts?
You know, there's a couple of reasons why you really don't compete very much. Number one, we do give everybody a territory so that you have space in the market. The territory is there to restrict us from overpopulating a market. But out of that, you're going to have regional and national customers. So it's a contact base, not necessarily just a customer base of that territory. Second reason is there's too many different niches and different types of customers. So if you're good with schools and churches or hospitals or museums or car dealers or banks or apartment complex work or construction companies, event planners, trade show people, sports organizations, commercial property managers, chains of restaurants, chains of retailers, who you desire as a customer and who we desire as a customer are different. The next reason is you can only go after so many customers and so many projects. It's bandwidth to be able to go after more. In the beginning, a good first month might be 10 to 15 projects. Mature in business might be 50 to 100 projects in a month, but they're bigger, more elaborate projects. And so it's bandwidth. And the last thing is we bought into this culture of peer support. We don't want to alienate a neighboring Signworld owner because we need their help more than we want that customer. So it's just based on the culture that we don't compete with each other.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Kevin, would you like to go ahead and go off mute and share another question for the group today?
Now I'm off mute. Yeah, I'm gonna get deep into the weeds because I'm looking at the financial side of it right now. So my question to the group is, how did you fund your business and how much working capital did you start with, and was it enough? Okay,
very good. Let's start with you, Larry. How did you fund your business, and do you remember how much working capital you needed to get started with?
I paid cash for it. I was able to do that, so I didn't have to get funds from outside. And I'm trying to remember. I don't know. I want to say at the time, I think I had an additional $20,000 to keep the business going. I didn't dip into it. I was fortunate. I didn't need that, but that's the amount that I had.
Okay, very good. How about you, Dave?
We took out an SBA loan, and I think I had $50,000 in working capital.
Okay, Pete?
I funded with a 401k rollover, and I think I had about $60,000 or $65,000. You know, once I paid the startup expenses, the moving in expenses.
Okay. Jack?
I used self-funded. I wish I'd had a 401 at the time, because when I sold my business 10 times later for 8 times what I paid for it, I paid a huge capital gains tax. So I would have preferred doing the 401 as opposed to other investment.
Very good. You got a very diverse answer there, Kevin. One of each: cash, 401, and an SBA.
It really was one of each.
It was, and very good. All right, let's go to Omar. Omar, would you like to take yourself off mute if you have a second question for the group today? Okay, I don't see you off of mute yet. So if you're having trouble with that, you can go ahead and put it in the chat box. I'll keep my eyes on that as well. So with that said, we've gone through the group twice. Anybody else have another question for the group? We've got about 8 more minutes left for at least 1 or 2 more questions, if there are any.
Gene, I'll ask a question.
Go for it.
Each of you joining Signworld looked at other businesses. Why was Signworld your choice?
Great question. Let's start with you, Dave.
You know, I was talking to what do they call them? A franchise coach or career coach. And we talked about a bunch of different franchise opportunities, selling metal, disaster recovery, that kind of thing. And he's asked me if I wanted to talk to a sign guy. I think I went in and did that with about as low expectations as possible. And I had a conversation with Jack, and just the setup of the business, I'm a tools guy. I used to be a stagehand way back in the day. So I'm used to hanging stuff and running cable and building things. And so that piece of it was interesting to me. And I just like the way it was set up, and the lack of any kind of franchise attachment was good as well.
Good. Dave, Pete, how about you?
Just like Dave, I was working with a franchise coach, looked at a lot of different options. The one, it was manufacturing. I came from a long manufacturing background, so that aspect of it really appealed to me, to be able to make a physical product that you can point to at the end of the day and say, we made that, doesn't look great. The skilled workforce was important to me. I did not want anything that relied on day labor or my own labor 100%. And business to business. I didn't want to get into any consumer businesses. And then fourth, just like Dave said, the lack of a franchise fee or a royalty, and your own playbook, your own company is really, really, really attractive.
Very good. Thank you, Pete. Larry?
Well, when I left my corporate job, I knew I wanted to go into business for myself. I come from a family of small business owners, so that was always in my blood. I always wanted to do it. I get out of college, the next thing I know, it's 27 years later, and I have an opportunity. So working with a business coach, looked at all the franchises, interviewed with them, saw a lot of great companies that I knew I could be successful running. But the problem was, it wasn't my company. I would be still doing a small piece of someone else's company, and that's not what I wanted. My biggest fear was the fact that I don't know anything about any other industry except for the company that I was working for. So when Signworld came up, what I liked about it is it gave me the help that I needed in an industry I don't know anything about. They gave me the equipment, they gave me the training, they gave me the vendors, all those things that I needed. And then it was my company. And that for me was exactly what I needed.
Very good, Larry. Jack, would you like to answer your own question?
I made a list of 35 things that were important for me. Some about daily life, the economics, and personal life around it. And Signworld hit all 35, where everything else got booted out for multiple reasons. It was every day being different. It was having repeat customers and being able to involve my kids, just on and on. Best decision I made. So a follow-up question to that. You join an organization that doesn't charge you royalties. What's support like after you join?
Great question. Larry, let's start with you.
Jack, can you say what the question was again?
You know, if you're not paying a royalty, what's support been like for you? You got trained and then you were let go and nothing afterwards.
Yeah, if I went back and figured out what I'm not paying in royalties, if as opposed to if I would have joined a franchise, it would be frightening. It probably would be, I don't know, close to $1.5 million probably.
So Larry, if we take it a step forward and think about the support side of it, as an 18-year-old owner, you're giving a lot of support back to other owners, but what are you still leveraging from an information perspective within the Signworld organization?
Well, there's so much available. You know, there's webinars that are out there literally every single day. There's all the training materials that help you with new employees. They help you. Every year we get together at the annual convention and you have nonstop training. And then probably the biggest one is all the owner network that I draw from all the time, talking to other owners and gaining experience from them.
Very good. Thank you. Dave, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of support. So we've had a couple of printer issues in the last year, say, and so Terry Lee, who works for the company, has been super helpful because he knows the path of 1,000 clicks to get to the part that you need to get back in printing, which has been super helpful. And then also just other, the other Signworld owners, I think, have been phenomenal, a phenomenal help because we've all kind of walked through the same miles before, and so they can give you a shortcut. When I first started, I had a couple of guys stop by and just say, hey, if you need something, just call me because I can tell you in 5 minutes instead of you spending half a day to figure it out. And that's been super helpful, and I try to return the favor.
Very good. Pete?
I asked exactly the same question when I was doing my due diligence, and every owner that I talked to, of 6 or 7, they all said the same thing, that the support is phenomenal and the network is magic. And yeah, I was a little bit skeptical ahead of that point too. So that was actually one of the decision points in favor of Signworld, is that the stories of support were definitely there, and I'm seeing it. I'm experiencing it for sure.
Very good. Thank you, Pete. We do have one more panel or participant that would like to ask a question. So Omar, if you'd like to go ahead and take yourself off mute and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. This is really good content and really testimonials. I love it. The main question is, how did you make it through economic hardships? I mean, talking about nationwide, worldwide. It seems that this company's been around for a while, and I'm trying to identify the patterns. I mean, I have 3 sons in college. They're hardworking. They have full-time jobs. I want to build something to do with them, right? So, and I'm thinking about the future, about the challenges they're going to face, what's coming along, the signs, and how did you make it through? What makes this company different than others?
All right, well, let's start with Pete, who's gone through COVID, and how'd you survive, and how do you see the future?
The future is bright. COVID, 2 years of COVID struggles, they were rough. But I started with a little extra funding, and that carried us through. Had a couple of great customers, and that were still functioning, still spending. So the business is out there. There might be less business, but if you're better at it than everybody else, then you're going to be the one that survives.
Absolutely. How about you, Dave? You've been around a little bit longer. You went through COVID. How did that experience go for you? And how do you see the outlook of your business?
Yeah, so Q1 of 2020, we had at the time was a record quarter. Q2, everything definitely slowed down. And we did not make our number that quarter. And then after that, the world kind of started moving again, and we've been going full blast. I think Q1 of this year was a little light with the whatever Omicron variant popped up and slowed everything down. But, what you'll find is when you hit a lull, get all your projects and your internal things done, because that's your opportunity, because when that lull's over, you're back to making signs and keeping up. So, overall we grew every year, and it grew through COVID both years. So yeah, I mean, people still need signs and people still need to do their job. So yeah, it's been okay.
Very good. How about you, Larry? You've been through, were you in the recession of 2008, 2009? Trying to do my math here.
I
was
went
gonna- gone
through
two hard times.
went through 9/11, the recession of 2009, the COVID. We went through all of those, and it's amazing what happens is your business changes a little bit during that time. And I think of the recession when a lot of the big projects got put on hold. They were not moving forward because the businesses just were not spending the money. But the lower ticket signage really skyrocketed because every business was trying to get more business. And they did that not by buying a brand new sign for their front of their building. They did it through banners and the small signs that they put out by the road and those types of things, more signs on the inside of buildings. And so we made it through those years and actually increased in sales with the smaller ticket items, just doing more of those. And during COVID, we stayed open. I about 2/3 of my staff was laid off during that time, but we kept the core. We kept in contact with the customers. We did all the plexiglass, all the different things that came up during COVID, all the restaurants that needed signage to be put up, then they needed them to be taken down, and they were closed, they were open, drive-through. The business was still out there.
Very good. Thank you, Larry. Jack, your thoughts?
We have a few Signworld that are hurt a little bit more than others, but overall, I believe our dip much less than most other businesses. Signs are pretty recession resistant. Signs keep changing. The business can't stop advancing their signage because of other things, because otherwise they'll be out of business. So we ride right through.
Very good. Well, I do want to be mindful of time of our owners who have graciously given us this last hour of their time. So Larry, Pete, and Dave, we really appreciate you taking time out of your day today to share your perspectives. To our participants, thank you for joining us today, and we appreciate your interest in learning about Signworld. Look forward to those future conversations with you to determine if this is the right path for you in this next chapter in your lives. Thanks everyone for joining today. Wish you the best of your rest of your day.